Joining us now, he's been with us all week. He's been amazing, is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. I just got a look at the latest Fox poll coming out tonight. It's a 1-point race. The IBD poll has it tied. Rasmussen has it tied. I have a list of states here in front of me, and I'll read them to you, where all are in play. And literally, well, Ohio's leaning very heavily Trump. Arizona, it's Trump plus 2 or 3. Nevada, it's close and tied. New Hampshire, almost tied. New Mexico, he's down a little bit. Colorado's even. He's down 3 in Virginia, up 9 in Missouri. Michigan is now even. I have no idea what's going to happen on Tuesday, and I'm hoping you do.
No, look, I mean, I have a hunch, but let's start with the fact nobody knows what's going to happen. If you took all the polls of the last 3 weeks, and you plotted them on a board. And 1 week you're saying Michigan's out of play. Now Michigan's back in play.
By the way, I forgot to tell you, the Gravis poll has Pennsylvania dead tied even 46-46.
Right. And I saw a second poll that came out in Pennsylvania that showed both Toomey and Trump exactly tied. My belief is anywhere that he is either tied or down 1, he will win.
And in New Hampshire, Gravis has him up by 2.
Yeah, and I think it has Ayotte up now by 6 or 7.
And then in Georgia, I was a little worried about Georgia. It's Trump by 4, but it's better than nothing. Fox 5 Atlanta has him up by 4.
Matt Towery sent me a note and said he had that's his poll. He said he thinks it's over in Georgia, that we carry it, that the consolidation over the weekend, the margin will be much bigger than plus 4.
But for Trump to win, Mr. Speaker, and I've gone through this, look, I understand totally what you're saying. I understand the model that you're following. You're basically saying none of these models are real. And you've been saying it for a long time, and I believe you. But until I actually hear the words, Fox News projects Donald J. Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, I'm not going to believe it.
Well, look, I'm in the same boat. I talked to Trump a little while ago, and you know, he has the same sense that we're on the road. We're doing well. I've been in Georgia, Missouri, Colorado, Nevada. I'm actually talking to you from Chicago, where there are an amazing number of Cubs fans. All of them very happy. And by the way, proof. Look, a year when a 108-year drought ends for the Cubs, maybe a year when the underdog just wins decisively. You know?
Yeah.
So how's that for a straw to grab at? But my view is that all of the news, despite every effort of people like CNN to avoid it, all of the news has been bad for Hillary. It all keeps getting worse. You just played Julian Assange saying something which is devastating. My newsletter that'll come out later on today really talks about the cesspool of the establishment, and that we have to recognize that this is a direct mortal. We now know enough that we know that this is a direct mortal threat to the survival of constitutional self-government and the rule of law.
I think this country is going to...
It's not just Hillary, by the way. It's the whole system of corruption.
Well, if you look at, I would argue, God forbid she wins. And this is my take. I'll give you my words, my thoughts, and you share yours. I think we will be facing a constitutional crisis that will paralyze and divide this country in a way we do not need at this point. I don't think any progress will be made on any issue of significance. And I actually think that it'll put us in greater danger as a country because we will not have our eye on the prize, and that we'll have a president whose full-time job will be to prevent getting indicted.
Look, at a minimum, you're going to have 2 or 3 years of an embattled presidency. But it goes deeper than that. John Dean said that the Watergate cover-up was a cancer on the presidency. We now know from all of these various emails, many of which, remember, were legally released by the U.S. government under court order. I mean, so it's not all just WikiLeaks. We now know that we are faced with a cancer on the entire system, that you have all these big companies, these lobbyists, you have foreign governments. And one of the things we did today, Vince and Ross were helping me do research. And you go back, there's a specific provision in the Constitution that you can't take money from foreigners if you are in public office. And there's a specific law which says that means your spouse can't take money either. So I'm going to argue, and I'll put together in the next few weeks, every single foreign donation while she was in the Senate or she was in the State Department was by definition illegal.
Unbelievable.
So that's how sick this is. And this goes all the way back to the Founding Fathers, who understood that corruption was the greatest threat to a republic. And Hamilton actually writes this in the Federalist Papers, that the greatest threat is foreign governments trying to corrupt the presidency.
It's happened. She's invited all of this. You know, it really, when you put it all together, who's going to delete 33,000 emails, but not just delete them? We're going to acid wash them and bleach pit them clean so that, as Trey Gowdy said, God can't recover them. Why would one go to that length? Why would you go to the length of circumventing the State Department secure email server for a private server in a mom and pop shop in a bathroom if there wasn't some real desire to get away from Freedom of Information Act requests and congressional oversight, which, by the way, is illegal? And then you're sending classified information. Then you got the series of lies that she told about it. And then you've got the connections that we now put the dots together, that all of it was about self-enrichment. And the Clinton Foundation, the Uranium One deal, where Hillary Clinton had to literally come in and help out a guy that had donated $32 million and got others to donate tens of millions of dollars. And this guy had this company and he started merging, and she personally had to sign off for one of her big donors that Russia has control of 20% of our uranium resources. You wouldn't do that for anybody that didn't give you $50 million, would you?
Oh, and then you go to more and more stuff keeps coming out. And what people have to recognize is, you know, the Doug Band's 12-page memo really is the Rosetta Stone that opens up everything. This was a conscious, deliberate, systematic conspiracy to enrich the Clintons at the expense of the United States of America, at the expense of the rule of law, and to do it in a way which they knew was illegal, and so they were trying to hide it. I mean, there's no other practical explanation of what we're living through.
Mm-hmm. Do you trust the polls, Mr. Speaker? What are your general feelings about polls? Because, look, I remember back in '94, and we've been friends for a number of years up to that point, and I had the honor of being your MC the night you became the Speaker of the House, one of the greatest nights of my life, to be honest, and one of the great honors of my life. And I was there, and I got to watch this history unfold before my eyes. But, you know, you knew weeks in advance you were winning because you kept telling me, no, we got it. We got it. For the first time in 40 years, you're going to take over Congress, and you had that confidence.
Well, and I think you have to look at a lot of factors. It's not just polling. It's also what's the turnout like. I mean, I don't know any place where Hillary Clinton is going to attract African-American votes at the size that Obama did. And yet that was a very big part of his key to being able to win. And so you go down those kind of things, and you look around and you begin to realize there also is going to be a very intense Republican turnout, because people are not only voting against Hillary, they're voting against the media, they're voting against the whole way this has been set up, they're voting against the corruption. I can just tell you from traveling around now, and people walking up to me on the street, people walking up to me in airports, there is an intensity among Trump supporters that has zero parallel with Clinton supporters.
What is going to happen if Donald Trump wins with all of these establishment Republican people that have sabotaged him every step of the way? And what if, God forbid, he lost by a tiny margin? How angry will Trump supporters be? I know I'm angry already.
Well, I have shocked several reporters by saying, you know, he's not going away.
Well, I agree with that.
So there will be a Trump movement, and the Trump movement will be definitive, and Republicans will get to define themselves as pro and anti-Trump, and the anti-Trumpers will get beaten in the primaries in 2018. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not complicated, because what's happening is this is one of those things you can never go back. We will never, ever again see America the way we did before this campaign, because we've seen so much stench, such a swamp, to use Trump's words, such a cesspool, to use the word I use in my newsletter today. This is so bad that we're not going to turn back and say, oh, let's just be friends and go forward. You know, we also now understand how much we, the American people, are sold out for multinational corporations in ways that are totally inappropriate and that threaten the very survival of our system. So I think you're going to see a much more aggressive and militant conservatism coming out of this. And then, you know, I don't think of them as anti-Trump anymore. The pro-Clinton Republicans are going to have to make a decision. I mean, they can either come back and join the party again, or they can stay out there as a remnant, as a fossilized remnant, and just disappear and become irrelevant.
You know, the Republican Party, there either needs to be a new party, a revitalized party, a party that is focused on the suffering of 95 million Americans out of the labor force. You know, I get the distinct impression, when have Republicans ever gone into black neighborhoods and banged their hand on a table or a desk and say, we're fighting to fix your educational system, which is a disaster, and we owe that to you, and we believe in the God-given talent of your children, and we're going to do it. I mean, I don't see the fight in these people that we need to transform this country and get it on the right track.
Well, I do think there's a new generation of Republicans coming along, and I think there's a lot more energized senses. Remember, I believe this is the beginning of a 20-year cycle where it will get more and more and more intense the more people learn about how sick the system has been.
Oh, boy, we learned that. By the way, Julian Assange showed us how sick it is, showed us how evil and corrupt it is, and we owe him a debt of gratitude, and people get mad when I say that. But listen, I got to let you go, but I want to remind people, you're in Illinois tonight at Anderson's Bookshop. What is that, in Naperville? Naperville?
That's in Naperville. We'll be there at 7, and tomorrow we're going to be at Barnes & Noble in La Crosse at 2 in the afternoon. And
that's Wisconsin, La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah. We look forward very much to seeing your many fans.
All right, so it's going to be tonight at 7 in Naperville, Illinois, Anderson's Bookshop, and then tomorrow, 2 p.m., Barnes & Noble, Valley View Mall, La Crosse, Wisconsin. All right, Great. Mr. Speaker, we'll talk on Monday with only 1 day to go. Thank you.